Welcome to CNXR's Wellness Journey series. Today we have a very special version of the Wellness series, Wellness Technologies. We are joined by two very important people in the industry. Start off with Sumit Puri, who is the CEO and co-founder of Prana AI, and he joins us from India by way of Dubai, which they spend a lot of time in spanning the two beautiful countries. Sumit, good to see you, and thank you for joining us here on the Wellness Journey.
Thank you, Christopher. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
And I'm also joined by my good friend and partner in the CNXR business, Vicente Navarro. Vicente is our Chief Technology Officer at CNXR. Welcome, Vicente.
Thanks so much, Chris. It's always great to get on telehealth with you, sir.
Well, that's it. You know, it's funny. We are living in a telehealth world here, and that's part of the reasons why we wanted to do this wellness technology version of the wellness journey, because it more so perhaps in any time, and maybe even perhaps in any industry, we're finding that technology is now really driving so much of the efficacy around healthcare. We're seeing it day in, day out. Certainly, the pandemic really opened our eyes in terms of various ways in very difficult circumstances to deliver and administer healthcare. In fact, just the system we're on here, CNXR, and the telehealth systems throughout the world are really indicative of that, where people are able to meet with their healthcare provider virtually, and certainly not instead of being in person, but it has opened up a whole series of ways of interfacing, not just with the medical professional, but as we get into a little bit later, enabling patients to almost communicate with each other. And that's sort of what we want to focus in on, the efficacy now of using technology around healthcare. And to get started with, I'd like to start with you, Sumit, if you could. Prana AI is doing so many interesting things regarding personalized healthcare. Maybe we could start a little bit of just giving some background. You know, we always like a good origin story of why the company started and really your mission around supporting the healthcare environment as we sit here in 2025.
Thank you so much, Christopher. So I'll quickly talk about my journey. So I have spent now almost 25 plus years in insurance and healthcare sector. I spent about 10 years in insurance and now last almost 10 years in healthcare before consulting and all that. So I realized that healthcare sector requires a lot more of end-to-end delivery aspect to the customer. So there is a need for real transformation, which I think it's crying. The customers are worried. The insurance companies are bleeding. There's a significant opportunity to transform the experience. So I kind of spent a fair amount of time at Max Hospitals, Max Healthcare, which was the most digital hospital arguably in India. We had the same electronic health record systems, same hospital information systems, and then spent time as Group CIO at Evercare Group in Dubai, which had 30 hospitals in Kenya, Bangladesh, Nigeria, India, Pakistan. And I really felt that there was a need to really make this a lot more customer friendly, because even during COVID, we realized that remote care was so important. You know, we were able to, with telemedicine, we were able to reach out to people at their homes and get them to start getting connected to doctors and hospital facilities, and that was a revelation to many of us, because in some countries, we were able to match the number of customers that were coming before COVID, pre-COVID, to actually during the COVID time also, it was almost similar with the telehealth platform that we are using across countries. So to me, that showed the power of technology. What could we do to make this much more accessible, much more easier to use for customers? And a lot of these treatments today can be given at home. Almost 70 to 80% of treatments can be done at home with a good telehealth platform. So to me, that was a good kind of segue for me to start looking at Prana AI on how can we make it more personalized, how can we make it more accessible, more convenient, and more affordable for the common people.
What I find fascinating about Prana is you're tracking not just fitness, though. You're taking a very comprehensive approach involving nutrition, emotional, financial, even environmental health. And how exactly do you do that?
I believe firmly that what we measure, you can manage. So I think to me, that's the key. You should be able to measure your clinical metrics and do it in a much more scientific manner. So we basically started off with that premise saying, can I include science into wellness? Can I bring it more science? Can I make it more clinical wellness? Not regular wellness, but clinical wellness. So we basically started off with a wellness score, which allows you to know where you stand. It's a very quick 1-minute facial scan that allows you to, give, let's say, it measures your blood flow from your cheeks and from your face and gives parameters. It gives parameters like blood pressure, like pulse rate, respiratory rate, SpO2, also risk for diabetes, risk for cardiac. Those were the start points. And by the way, it also measures stress. So we saw this as a very powerful, starter in terms of understanding where you stand on the journey of wellness. We are probably not going to be more than 85 to 95% accurate on the facial scan, but we then went to the next level, which meant that we could probably get some questions answered, some assessment done. It's a 5-minute questionnaire, not more than 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, where you answer some question about your lifestyle, exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress, environment, and kind of get a sense of what kind of lifestyle do you lead, and that gives us a very good understanding of your wellness. So that's the level 2 score, and then the level 3 was blood tests, which need to be done periodically, once in 6 months, once in a year. So this gives you a composite picture of your wellness. I can offer you personalized challenges. What do you need to do? It could be exercise, movement, could be something linked to nutrition, something linked to maybe sleep or maybe stress management or the environment. So we give you very good challenges linked to that, which are much more personalized to your needs. So that is what we kind of wanted to do, because we all know, because we're not measuring some of the natural, healers very well, like sleep, rest, exercise, nutrition, and all of this, the real benefits are not being quantified. You're not seeing the benefits. So we want to still compare the healing that you get with these natural elements with clinical parameters. So in a span of 3 months to 6 months, you will see the difference on clinical parameters. Could be your HbA1c levels, for example, in diabetes. With this, you will see in 3 to 6 months how much improvement has happened in HbA1c levels. And the same thing could happen for metabolic health, could happen for cardiac health, different areas. But that was the genesis of doing this.
Fascinating. You're the first firm that at least I have seen leveraging facial technology. That's obviously something that we're seeing a lot of just in my coming in today and opening up my laptop and use facial technology to log me in, going to an airport, various things. So it's something we're becoming much more familiar with and much more comfortable with regarding just getting through almost our day to day. But you're the first first company, I guess, better stated, that I've seen using facial technology to gauge metabolic health, to actually gauge a scoring and a progress. Could you drill down a little bit more for our audience regarding the technology of that, and then what is some of the innovation that you've deployed here?
So this technology has been there for a long time. It's been there as photoplethysmography, PPG technology. It's been there since almost 60, 70 years, from what we understand. What we did was we added a remote piece to this. So the RPPG, to make it more mobile friendly, available on the mobile, available on the move, is what we did. Because our focus was to try and enable this to be accessed by anybody, anywhere, anytime, anywhere. That was the key objective. Because it is a mobile world, we all understand it's a digital world. We would want this to become available at the place of choice, at the time of choice of the customer. So that is what we basically innovated on. We looked at the existing technology of PPG and added the remote piece here to add some more kind of specific parameters. So we're using signal processing, we're using the camera of the phone, because today the cameras have actually advanced significantly on your own mobile phones. So that's what we basically are using. And we're using the signal processing to enable us to capture the actual blood flow, on the face. So to me, this is just adding on to the PPG technology that's already there and enabling this to be measured remotely.
It's fascinating use of existing technology for decades, and then now mashing it up with the use of phone technology, which, as you mentioned, has come so fast, so fast, so quickly with that. So that's really good. And just before I turn to Vicente, just a little bit more, Smith, on you mentioned your grading system. You're trying to gauge and show progression. And could you explain a little bit more about that and sort of how you categorize and how an individual, a person, a patient, if you will, progresses through your system and how you gauge their at the efficacy of their protocols?
Oh, sure. So I think to me, the biggest thing for us is to measure this at two levels. One is the clinical improvement, which is again the most important aspect. So you would like to basically look at clinical parameters, and we're creating panels. We're creating different panels for different aspects, including metabolic health, cardiac health, diabetic health, could be stress panel, few key panels that we actually created with a lot of research. Because what we realized is that hospitals today are not measuring the right parameters. They're actually not measuring what is really needed. Even in metabolic health, I don't see very many hospitals measuring certain things that are critical to metabolic health. So we put those panel parameters together, which makes it a lot more scientific to say, look, this is what is the current state where you are right now. And this is all validated. This is all validated by doctors, validated by scientific journals, saying this is what probably is the right kind of metabolic health for you at this point of time. And then we put them onto a program, a personalized program using aspects like nutrition, movement, sleep, stress management, depending on their score, because we're giving you a wellness score across all these dimensions. Whichever area you have a lowest score, whichever dimension, we're giving you a challenge on that. So that's a primary goal for you. That's something you should focus on a lot during this month. Of course, we will have some additional secondary goals, which are all useful. If you have the motivation, we would like you to also do secondary goals. But this is all done through an integrated lifestyle medicine expert. Because what happens in hospitals is that we're focusing on specialists. They only want to give you medicines and they understand their own specialty. Whereas you're not treating the patient, you're treating the disease. You're treating the symptoms. You're not looking at the root cause. So for us, that is what we wanted to actually address. When we talked about this, we said, can I look at a holistic view of you as a patient, not as a disease, as a patient? What is it that the problem is? What is the root cause of your problem? And we focus on that. So, for example, there could be a problem linked to nutrition, which is causing your sugar levels to go up, HbA1c levels to go up. Let's focus on nutrition for now. Let's make sure that is the primary target this month for you. And we give you personalized recommendation using AI on that. And we reward you because this is the instant gratification generation. They don't want to wait for 6 months for the HbA1c levels to improve. We would want them to be gratified now. And we're going to give that reward every week. If you do this consistently, you're going to get a reward every week. Maybe three consecutive weeks of streak, you will basically be able to get this into your lifestyle. And we're going to probably continue with that journey after, say, 1 month. If you see that improvement, some level of gamification, which allows you to go to the next level in month 2, and maybe the level 3 in third month. Look at your clinical parameters, because HbA1c needs to be measured after 3 months. So you're going to look at your clinical parameters after that 3 month, and if that improvement is clearly seen, you know that this has worked. The science is now backing up what was done. So you're looking at a very clear, holistic, scientifically backed, evidence-based protocol to enable you to see progress and improvement on clinical parameters using natural elements.
So clear and such an important. You make a distinction between sickness care and wellness care. I know that's something that that everybody in this call feels very strongly about, and the ability to measure, have truly measurable results. Really, such an important part of this. Vicente Navarro, let me sort of turn to you. Sumit mentioned clinical health and being in a clinic environment, in a lab environment. Certainly, you have some experience with that. Before we get into SynDXR, Vicente, maybe you just sort of tell the audience a little bit about your background. You come from a strong background, even prior to SynDXR, involved being in a clinic environment, and just a little bit about your background and what you've noticed, a little bit about the growth and the progression of healthcare through your years of involvement.
So yeah, I originally trained at my undergraduate degrees in biochemistry, and I have a graduate degree in computer science. So initially, straight out of college, I literally, actually during college, I walked right into an oncology research laboratory. And I spent literally 3 decades there with the same exact investigator, working on what is now commercially known as razupatamab, which is a monoclonal antibody targeting prostate cancer. So I was very fortunate to really be there before this was even it was just a concept that we put on paper, and developed it, went through in vivo, all of the in vitro studies, in vivo studies in animals, ultimately getting into patient clinical trials. And I was part of all of that, which gave me a pretty good understanding of that life cycle, the development life cycle. All along, I was also involved in I had a graduate degree in computer science, so I was always in love with computers. So developing tools and technologies back in about 25 years ago, around the year 2000, developed a electronic data capture system for our clinical trials. So because we were doing so many clinical trials and all of the data was everywhere, I endeavored to just create our own electronic data capture system, which allowed us to capture all of the data, and it did some pretty interesting things, for the time. So yeah, so that's kind of sort of like a very quick overview of my experience both in the technology and health sector. So and so a lot of this stuff, a lot of what you just said it's amazing to me. Actually, Chris asked Sumit a question which I wanted to ask, which was about the camera, the technology, right? It's like, wait a minute, one picture from your phone. Do you need a special camera? I know there are infrared phones, but some of the other things that come up are there any concerns of misuse? Because now, this technology is available to anyone, right? So there's the concern that there could be some misuse. Someone might be able to use it to assess what they might perceive as somebody's health. And then there's a second part to that, which is a little more positive, which is in terms of just your platform, how is it presenting the data? I know you keep talking about clinical metrics, but when it comes to me, like I'm very big on just looking at numbers. I track my sleep. I'm very big on sleep, right? I go to bed early. I wake up early as well. But I'm always, one of the first things I do, or at least I'll check to see how was my sleep, how much did I sleep, how much tossing and turning did I do. So my wife just says, I love numbers, anything with numbers. In other words, gamified, I'm really tracking, but I'm tracking like 3 or 4 different applications for different metrics. And I'm wondering about your platform. How easy, does it bring all of these together? And essentially, how does it present the data to its users, right? Is it going to be like clinical metrics that they may not understand, or is it going to be things that are very simple for them to understand?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. So frankly, I mean, we are wanting this to become simplifying, our tagline is simplifying wellness. That's what the key objective is. I'll answer your first question first. So I think the security element, what we are basically doing is we want this to be very secure, and access to, as we all know, sensitive healthcare data is so important to ensure that it is restricted and only available to the right people, only available to the person who needs it, basically the customer himself and maybe the clinician. So we're kind of focusing on that, and that's what the objective is. So we're using edge technology, whereas the data does not leave your phone. The data is still on your phone only, and we are simply enabling that to be, used for your reference. And of course, you can share it with your clinician. That's definitely possible. So that's one. So it's clearly secure. It's GDPR compliant. We've done all the necessary checks. So that's sorted. Now, if I look at basically the second part to your question, which is about how do you ensure this is easy to understand for a normal user, for a customer? And it's such a plethora of applications. You've got multiple apps that are there, multiple wearable devices. How many more devices are going to buy for getting your information? How many more are you going to, spend on? So that's what we're basically trying to solve. We are saying, can I ensure that I have all this in one place? An integrated platform that enables all of this. A single dashboard, which gives you a 360 view of your health. We're putting those panels together. We're focusing on one panel at a time. We will ensure that panel improvement is seen by you with the personalized routines that we're giving you to do. And clinical parameters are going to justify how much that progress has happened. So that's clearly the focus. So it's available to you. You're seeing that metrics. You're seeing also your dashboard in terms of your daily achievement. What is your daily achievement currently against your targets? And that's shown, how many days do you achieve it for the month, how many do you achieve it during the quarter, and what is your clinical parameters, clinical panel telling you with actual evidence, from the hospital in terms of clinical parameters, in terms of clinical evidence.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, in terms of just like how much AI goes into that, right? Analyzing, because there's so much data. There's data everywhere. Just to share a little bit of a story, about my essentially use of AI in just medicine, right? Health wise. My mother has been sick for quite a period of time over the past several months. But I use AI extensively to, one, learn about her condition, understand it better, understand what questions I need to ask the doctors, even sharing with it many of her, results. And it was amazing. I mean, it was amazing. The information that I got from it literally helped me ensure that my mother, it empowered me, right, to ensure that she got the right treatment. And it was on point. Everything, whatever the AI said, is what the doctor said as well. So my confidence in it grew significantly. So, how much AI, is in your application, and how are you using, commercially available LLMs, or are you training your own LLMs for that?
So currently we're using commercially available LLMs. That's what we're basically working on right now. And of course, our objective here is to, enable this to be using globally reliable sources. So, for example, what we are trying to do is trying to get, a chatbot, which is deriving data from NHS, from WHO, to give you level 1, level 2 information, which could be used for the companion, used as a good kind of, let's say, source of information. But beyond this, it's also about giving you the right notification and right kind of triggers to enable you to, achieve the right goals. So I'm talking about habit formation. I'm talking about, in a way, nudges, the right AI-based nudges, basis your condition, basis your goals. So for us, the important thing is that you do this consistently. And in some ways, we're talking about atomic habits being, in a way, done through the app to ensure that you get the right outcomes. So that's what we're focusing on. We're kind of enabling atomic habits at a granular level for the user, basis his condition, his or her condition. What is it that they should do? Should they do exercise? Should they do nutrition? Should they do sleep? Should they do stress management? What should they do for now? That's the most important focus, because you can't do everything at the same time. It's too overwhelming. We want you to do one element. And of course, like I said, at some point, I think, to me, it's still early stages. If we were to probably get more advanced, we get more data, we would probably want to connect this to genomics data. So if I was to look at DNA and genomics data, and I say, for this kind of genes, this is the kind of regime which works best. That's what we want to ultimately do. The key objective is to kind of move towards that goal, where we get more information and give them a much more calibrated, much more curated routine basis their genes. Because we all know epigenetics is about, in a way, kind of mitigating the expression of genes. It can stop the expression of genes. And can I basically even understand which is the genes we need to stop? That will make it even more powerful. You can even stop actual lifestyle diseases from happening with the right kind of interventions at the right time. So that's the level we'd like to get to.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about personalized medicine, right? An application that gets to know you, know who you are, and I appreciate, I think earlier in the conversation, you mentioned something about how every doctor has their specialty. And this was exactly my experience with my mother's condition, her situation. She was seeing literally a myriad of doctors. Each one had their specialty, but they also almost, I don't want to say they didn't care, they weren't paying attention to what the other doctors were doing. And it became a problem because at one point she developed an issue that was literally a dietary issue, right? And if it hadn't been for me being able to utilize the AI to determine, hey, this could be a dietary issue, consulting with my wife, who happens to be like a nurse. She's like the second coming of Florence Nightingale, no exaggeration. She's amazing. And she told me, yes, it could be it. I spoke to the doctors and they confirmed that, yes, but it required my intervention, right? So if there's an application that can help me do that seamlessly, I think it's very powerful. It's empowering the patient to really, look after their health and well-being as opposed to managing, their disease.
We're so glad that that your mom is doing better, Vicente, and she's lucky. Your wife may be Florence Nightingale, but you have a certain place as an angel for your mom as well. I want to talk a little bit about that. You're bringing up some very interesting things regarding AI and data, and I know, Vicente, you've been a leader with respect to looking at the structured data that comes from a particular physician that we partner with, such as Dr. Cavo at Pounds Translation. But what I find interesting is your work on unstructured data. When I mean specifically by that, we're talking about how AI models learn, right? And part of it is them combing the internet for available sources of information. But what we're now seeing is a thirst from AI companies to look at proprietary data. Obviously, doctor overseen and HIPAA compliance all in consideration here. But if you could talk a little bit about the CDXR's effort through group therapy. I know we're talking with Sumit and Prana about, one-on-one, but we live in a world that is inherently social, right? People are sharing information in real time. Tell us a little bit about, maybe just taking a step back a little bit, CDXR's use of telehealth, and now that's expanded obviously into virtual reality and extended reality. If you could talk a little bit about how the group therapy works within those two modalities, telehealth and then with virtual reality, but then also extend on what is the power of using AI to extend not just the information comes from one patient, but in a group therapy standpoint to scale that information, and where, as you noted, people can learn from multiple observations from scaled levels of patients being served across multiple doctors using something like CDXR.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate the fact that, right, the world is social, right? Regardless of, what it is, we are very social creatures. Actually, it reminds me a little bit about a commercial that I've seen for a certain beer manufacturer. You might have seen it. Well, the tagline at the very end is the original social network since 1872. Right? We're at a
In the
bar.
pubs, in the pubs of the old world there. Yes,
Right.
please.
That's amazing. That's beautiful, right? At least you're face to face with
True.
other people. So we are a very social, right, creatures. And then there's so much communication, those nonverbals that occur, right? Just when we're communicating. And this is also, it applies so much to what Sumit, you guys are doing, right? Because with the pictures, you're able to pick up so many of those nonverbals, right? Communication. So you can imagine on our platform in CDXR, we've begun recording a lot of these recordings, just like the ones we're doing now. But we're also doing it in virtual reality, where we're recording those interactions and then running them through sentiment analysis. We're able to get group dynamics, understand the sentiment of the group, was it positive or negative, and then individual sentiment analysis. Maybe someone was, overzealous, they were very happy and excited, right? And someone might have been very down. So we're able to determine maybe someone who might have been negative, maybe was not in the, right mental space, mental space, might need some intervention. And these are the kind of things that we've been working on, right? Taking all of this unstructured data that is very dynamic, group dynamics, putting them through AI algorithms to extract information on an individual basis as well as a group basis. The goal is to really get, hundreds or thousands of these and kind of like see what happens over a period of time. That's the other thing, right? What happens in these groups if you have a particular group of, a group of people, what happens to that sentiment over a period of time if they stick together, right? You've got the same group meeting over several months, 6 months. What happens? Do individual sentiments change, right? Do their behaviors change? So these are the kind of things we're working on that I think are very, very exciting, very, not trivial to do, but very exciting.
Vicente, putting your futurist hat on for a second, the virtual reality business as a segment, you talk about the Gartner curve, the hype curve. It's been on a lot of curves, right? Various type of headsets and various types of investments, be it Meta. We just saw over the last week, actually, Samsung getting deeply into their XR approach. But one dynamic that you and I have spoken about with the team, of course, at CineXR are the glasses. It started off with the Ray-Ban Meta. Now we're starting to see other things where instead of the big Google or I guess Google too, but instead of the big goggles, we're starting to see more headsets that are more like glasses, like you have. So it's more, I don't know, socially acceptable. I don't know if that's the right term. Certainly a lot more portable, be able to walk out with glasses and be able to sit there at the beach and then all of a sudden leverage AI and leverage various things like that. So where do you see the glasses movement? And do you think that is going to be finally the way that really ignites extended reality? So that's my first question. And I want to get to a little bit of the mashup. We can sort of finish up with it would be interesting to see, Prana's technology in the glasses where all of a sudden you're taking a picture right in front of the person and then doing a diagnosis. But first, before we get there, what do you see as in terms of the glass movement here? And do you think that that's going to be the one that finally ignites extended reality?
I do. I mean, I think from the very beginning when I got into the space, myself and everyone I spoke to, everyone knew, you couldn't walk around with these big goggles. They had, but not in use. Everyone was, like very excited about the glasses. Of course, this was like 10 years ago, so I'm not sure, maybe the excitement has rekindled now. I hope so, but I do believe that, the glasses are going to ignite. We've already seen it. The Meta Ray-Bans are a huge success, especially when you compare it to their VR goggles, right? The Meta Quest. The sales are very, very good. It's the reason why they now have the Meta displays, the one with the display in the right eye. So it really is, I think it's already ignited it. It definitely is going to take off. And I do see a whole new era of just how these glasses are going to really, change the way we move about our world, right? Just from normal, like navigating the world. But, health-wise, as we focus on health, I've been playing around thinking about, how amazing this could be for nurses, for example, to wear these glasses. Just again, with Prana Health, right? They would be able to take a picture of the patient in the room and assess so many already, whatever Prana does, right? That they'll be able to assess that patient through these pictures, which becomes automatically part of their health record. In addition to so many other things, right? Just like wound healing. I recently was bitten by a dog. I'll tell you about that later. So I started using, just a tape measure, taking a picture of my hand, right? So that I can put it through AI so that AI could monitor the wound healing, right? But that could be done through the glasses, right? So I'm thinking more in terms of something like when you have bed sores, right? If a nurse or healthcare practitioner using the glasses in their clinic, just by snapping a picture, they have a lot of parameters, a lot of metrics that they would be able to monitor. So yeah, I think it's going to open up a whole new, avenue of just how we, deliver medicine and healthcare, period, as well as tracking our own, healthcare, so our wellness.
Well, this will take it as we sort of finish up here. We'll take it full circle. Then it's really fascinating, right? We have the CineXR involving with XR technologies, extended reality. All of a sudden, we're getting into a glass modality that has, of course, the camera and the camera technology. But then all of a sudden, we're in your world, Sumit. So maybe you can put your futurist hat on. Any comment on what Vicente said in terms of the glass technology and how that may ignite your business, but also anything else you want to bring up in terms of what you see as you look out to the future of technology and what excites you even more than we're so much to be excited today, but what even excites you coming down the line here?
Absolutely. So I completely agree. I can't agree more with you and Vicente. Frankly, the future looks very promising with the new technology innovations. And it's even more interesting when we kind of explore the future of, with innovative partnerships. That's the key. Really getting to kind of combine forces and make this a really, really powerful value proposition. Because to me, it's all about how do you reach out to customers at their doorstep. How can you enable care to be available, accessible, affordable? That's what the key objective is. Ultimately for healthcare. So that's what can be done now with the new technology innovations taking space. We look at the AI that's coming up. There is a lot of possibility in terms of diagnosis and obviously ensuring that you can improve and augment the doctor's wisdom, doctor's understanding. With millions of cases, which can really be powerful for them to take the final decision. So, in some sense, it is extremely exciting. The new technologies can be combined, can be integrated, can be delivered, and really made extremely powerful for the user from an outcome standpoint. So that's one. That's clearly a huge, interesting, arena. Along with this, I think there is a lot of power also in aspects like the group therapy you mentioned. I mean, we are social creatures. I would say that if you were to look at group therapy, even for other segments, and I'm saying even for Prana, we are looking at pregnant mothers, for example. Can we try and make group therapy available for them together? Because that shared experience is completely mind blowing. You can derive a lot of support from each other. There could be a huge element of this where you actually have the husband and wife doing this together with other couples, and it's incredible the kind of support that comes through. And we are talking about challenges that are customized to those groups. So nutrition challenges customized to that group of that cohort of couples. Maybe I'm talking about mothers and all, and same thing could be a different challenge for, let's say, another cohort. So these are very, very powerful possibilities, and that momentum, the fact that you're getting support because you need emotional anchors. You don't have that today. It's a much more isolated world. That's where we can probably do a lot more in terms of actual biohacking, because I think you have to start relying on your own devices. You can't be a bystander in healthcare. You can't have a black box in terms of what's happening to your health, which is today happening in a hospital. You don't know what's happening. You should be the pilot along with other people who can help manage and improve your health. But you need to be aware, and you can then navigate this very well. So that's the key. I think there's a lot of convergence happening with technology. What we need is innovative partnerships to really leverage and kind of actually manage this technological revolution to the best interest of the consumer, and really affect outcomes.
So well said. Whether it's prenatal all the way to, I know a big topic now is longevity. It's already a $1 trillion business in terms of keeping us all around for a little while. But look, on behalf of CNXR, as the chairman and CEO of CNXR, we greatly value our relationship and our growing relationship with Prana AI. I can't thank you enough. Just as you listen to your vision and where this is going, and also a nod to my partner Vicente, your dedication to healthcare from the beginning of your college career to today. You're both very impactful to where this business is going, and I just sit back and say, thank God you guys are all on our side, and I mean the side of the human race. And as much as we talk about technology, ultimately it is about the human connection. And whether it's here in Boston or New York or Mumbai or Dubai, it's very heartening to hear the level of dedication. So I want to say thank you for a really great conversation. I feel like we can go on forever, but we'll leave it here. And thank you both for your time, and thank you for being part of our wellness journey here at CNXR.